This is Novel Marketing, the show for novelists who aren't necessarily fond of marketing, but still want to become best-selling authors.
Episode 154.
I'm James L. Rubart, but as always, you can call me Jim.
I'm Thomas Umstadt Jr.
And in this episode, we're going to talk to you guys about how you can use Fiverr to develop better books faster while staying on a tight budget.
And the reason we're doing this episode is because our Facebook group, which is really fun. If you haven't checked out the Novel Marketing Facebook group, you really should. People are asking great questions there, and they're posting their success stories, and it's really fun to celebrate along with you as you are making your websites better and selling more books and setting up lead magnets. And everyone has been asking about Fiverr. And so we finally are like, all right, we're going to have our definitive episode. We answered it in a Patreon Q&A. Somebody asked a question, but there's more than what we could handle in a short Q&A. So we're going to do an entire episode on it. And if you may be wondering, what is Fiverr? It's a website, and it's Fiverr, which is a slang for $5 in the UK, but with two R's because this is 2018. And why correctly spell something on the internet when you can spell it weird? So it's Fiverr with two R's, and it is a marketplace that connects people like you, authors who need work done, with people who want to do work for you for as little as $5.
So if you're someone, we're going to go into this because if you're someone that's saying, wow, where do I get a book cover? Where do I get a voiceover done? Or where do I get artwork done? Or where can I get a video done? Or where can I, all these questions you're going, where do I go to? We're suggesting that Fiverr is an excellent place to start.
That's right. Fiverr is not the highest quality.
Yep. That's a big caveat. Yep.
Although it can be high quality. So with Fiverr, you have a range of professionals, and the higher quality people are more expensive. So you get what you pay for, but often you get a lot more than what you pay for, depending on what you get. So you may be asking, okay, what kind of things can I get on Fiverr? So the most common thing that people buy is probably either a book cover or animation. You can get book covers on Fiverr for as little as $20. You can get Photoshop retouching, voiceovers. I buy voiceovers on Fiverr. If you listen to I've launched a third podcast. I don't think I ever announced it, actually. I have a third podcast on politics and culture called Liberty Buzzard. And our intro guy, we wanted somebody with a deep, gravelly voice, which isn't Jim. He's got a beautiful, sweet voice. And so I just went on Fiverr. I was like, I wonder if anybody could do this for me. And I spent, I think, $10 on our intro from that guy. And I'm very, very happy.
Think of Fiverr like, it's almost like a garage sale. Wouldn't you say, Thomas, where a lot of the stuff is like, it's okay. But every now and then you come across something that's really high quality and you pay pennies for it. So that might be an analogy that works for you. But there are a lot of people out there who have special skills that you might not have that you can access that way.
That's right. And you'd be shocked at a number of things you can get on Fiverr. One is translation. So when we wanted to get my book table translated into other languages, I hired people on Fiverr for $20, $25. They translated the plugin. If you're building your website and you want to do, let's say, search engine optimization analysis, and one of the big services that does a review would cost, $200 or $300 a year. And you're like, well, gosh, I don't want to pay per year. I just need one report. You go on Fiverr, somebody who owns that software will generate the report for you for $5. And it doesn't cost them hardly any time to do it. And you get a great report. You can do this as well with typesetting, with interior design, with getting your book set up on Kindle. The publishing area on Fiverr is very robust, and there are lots of people there who will help you out. And you may be wondering, so why are these people offering these services for $5? Like, how is it that they're making money? And the answer is, one, it's very easy money. It's the sort of thing that you can do from home, and it fits around your schedule. So somebody may be needing a little extra bucks for, some additional bill that they had this month, and they use Fiverr to supplement their income. Sometimes it's freelancers who are making lots of money doing other things, but they need work in the meantime, right? So it's feast or famine. Well, Fiverr helps them make the famines not quite so bad. So, $5 is better than nothing, which is what they maybe were making otherwise. And then also a lot of people on Fiverr are from other countries where US dollars are very powerful. So while $5 in America will buy you a cup of coffee at Starbucks, $5 in Indonesia will buy you a day's worth of food potentially, or a whole meal maybe. And so for them, they're willing to do a lot more work for those same $5 because the exchange rate is so strong. So for those of you listening in the future, the exchange rate may be very weak. The US dollar goes up and goes down, but right now the US dollar is soaring with the eagles. Everyone wants US dollars, and it's even strong against the euro, and against the pound. The US dollar is doing great. If you're buying, if you're wanting to sell, the US dollar is the worst. No one wants to buy anything from Americans right now because of the dollar. But anyway, for more about economics and trade, listen to Liberty Buzzard, my other podcast.
Liberty Buzzard, and it is a brilliant. I am loving the podcast, and that's not just because I love Thomas. It really is an interesting show. So please check it out.
So for authors, let's talk about what authors can use on Fiverr. Editing, if you're wanting some quick edits, or like beta readers, you can hire people to be beta readers. You can even hire people to be beta listeners to your podcast. So we've hired people to listen to Novel Marketing and give us their feedback on ways to improve the show. So if you've noticed the show quality getting better, some of that has been based off of feedback that we got from beta listeners on Fiverr. Back cover copy, typesetting, transcription, all of that you can do. Actually, let me zoom in real quick on transcription. Let's say you're wanting to write a book, but you're wanting to transcribe it, and you don't want to figure out Dragon, and you don't want to have to turn that transcription into something useful. You can hire somebody on Fiverr who will do it for 25 cents a minute, 50 cents a minute, $1 a minute, depending on who you hire, who will turn your audio into really clean text for you. So it's even better than using software. What I found is that the people who are good and cheap are slow, and the people who are good and fast are expensive. So we're not able to use Fiverr transcriptions for our podcast, partly because it's outside of our budget to get it done quickly. The people who are good are too slow for our current workflow. But otherwise, I'd totally be using Fiverr to create the transcripts for each episode. So let's talk a little bit about how to use Fiverr. How do you not get ripped off? So I realize spending money on Fiverr can be intimidating. A lot of people in the Facebook group are like, oh my gosh, I don't know, hiring somebody, what if I don't like it? So here's what I recommend. Buy something fun first. I went back researching for this episode, and I've spent, I think, $400 on Fiverr. And I was like, what was the first thing I bought on Fiverr? It was a caricature. Somebody did a caricature of my face. I sent them the photo, and they drew a caricature for $5, and it was fun. Wasn't a great caricature, but you know what? Caricatures are never great. They always accentuate something that you don't want accentuated. They gave me this huge neck, and I didn't care for it. But it was still fun. I sent it to my family. I might have posted it to Facebook. There's a whole category of Fiverr of just fun projects, and that helps you get through the process and kind of learn how Fiverr works without it being like, oh my gosh, this is my book cover for my short story. It's got to be perfect.
I have a friend. This is an example of something fun that you could do. You'll go to Fiverr if you've never been there and go, what? Somebody's willing to do that? And a friend of mine who has a sub shop here in town, he hired a guy that dives into the swimming pool and writes underwater the name of his sub shop and turns it around for the camera to see. $5 to do that. I mean, it's just fun. It's goofy. And he used it for promotion, obviously, but it's that kind of thing where you can just go, you know what? I'm just going to sample for $5. I'm going to sample what could be done. And like Thomas says, you'll get used to the process. You'll understand how it works, and you're not putting it out there for something that you think, and rightfully so, is critical.
That's really good. And, another thing, another tip on how to use Fiverr is you want to be responsive and give as much information to the person as possible. So if you're wanting, let's say, a book trailer for your book, you want to tell them as much as possible about your book and help them out as much as possible. Don't expect them for $5 to read your whole book. They're not going to do it. But if you give them the work on a silver platter, maybe the script on a silver platter, they're able to take that and put it into a video because they know video really well. Don't assume that the Fiverr person knows you or is going to do research. You want to do the research for them. You know yourself and your book far better than they are going to, which is actually a good rule of thumb for all freelancers. So be very clear about what you want, and you're more likely to get it. So another thing is the cheapest people on Fiverr are cheap for a reason. Now, that reason isn't necessarily that they are bad at what they're doing. It may be that they are new to Fiverr. Sometimes the best deals on Fiverr, if you're really on a tight budget, a great deal on Fiverr is somebody who's new to Fiverr and they're very experienced at what they're doing, but because they're new to Fiverr, they don't have a good reputation on Fiverr, because Fiverr will show you how many projects they've done and what the ratings of previous customers are and all that. And if they don't have that, they're going to have to price themselves low until they build up that reputation. So if you're willing to take a risk on a new person, you may be able to get a really good deal. On the flip side, sometimes people aren't any good and they don't know that they're not any good, and they're new to Fiverr and they're not any good. So this is one of those, it's riskier to go with a newer Fiverr creator, but that's where you can get really good deals. The other reason why people are cheap is because they either take shortcuts or they don't do very good work.
And let's clarify something real quick for you guys. You've probably figured this out, but not everything on Fiverr costs $5, right? It's because Tom is talking about, oh, this costs me $25, this costs 30, whatever. $5 is the entry point. So somebody might do something very quick for you. I'm going to do one caricature, Thomas, $5. I'll do that. And Thomas goes, oh, could we go back in and touch that up? Da, 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 da. Yeah, we can sure do that, but that's going to cost you extra money. So just to be clear, not everything costs $5 because of the extent of what they're doing for you.
That's right. And when you're done with a Fiverr project, you review the Fiverr creator on a bunch of different things, and then it asks you if you want to tip them, which is another interesting thing. A lot of Fiverr people are working really hard to thrill you so they can get tips, because that's where at least some of them make a lot of their money. I recommend, or I just want to say, Fiverr creators with videos of their faces exploring what they do and explaining it, they're more trustworthy and they typically have a better command of English. So if somebody's willing to film themselves on Fiverr, it's more likely that they're a real person with a reputation, because there are people on Fiverr who will put up stock photos of somebody, some beautiful woman. I remember I was on Fiverr and there was this woman who was suspiciously beautiful. And I was like, is this person really doing translations on Fiverr? I don't know. So I did a reverse image search on the photo, and it turned out it was some Ukrainian model. And
you don't think it was really her? You don't think it was really her, huh, Thomas?
It wasn't her. Some guy in India was using a photo of a Ukrainian model to be his photo, so to speak, on Fiverr to try to suck people in. And the reputable folks typically don't do that. They'll typically have a video, and I'm willing to spend more money on a Fiverr creator who has a video explaining their typesetting or explaining their book covers. 'Cause that way I know it's a real person and not somebody who's got a dozen different Fiverr accounts in their kind of puppets. Another a way to know that you're getting a good fit is to read the reviews and look at their last projects. Good Fiverr creators, so the tier 1 Fiverr creators, will have done hundreds or thousands of past projects, and they have very high reviews. And you really are getting what you're paying for, or even more so, which is very exciting. And another thing is, be okay losing $5 here and there on projects that don't work out. So sometimes I will hire, 4 or 5 people for $5 to do the same project, right? I need a photo retouched, and I'm willing to spend $20. So I'll hire 4 people to all retouch the photo, and then I'll end up using the photo from the one who did the best job, and maybe I'll use them in the future, but I still pay the $5 out to everybody else. Because it's $20. It's still not a lot of money. And then tip when you're happy, especially if you plan to come back. I found Fiverr to be a really beneficial asset to my business, not just as an author. Here's a good example of the sort of thing I've gotten on Fiverr. I've got a book cover. I need it made into a 3D book cover. If you don't know how to do that, that's really complicated to learn. You got to buy $60 worth of software, or hundreds of dollars worth of software. But if you already have that software and the know-how, it only takes you 2 or 3 minutes to make a 3D book cover. And you're very happy to take someone's book cover and make a 3D version of it on Fiverr for $5. So if you need your book to be made into a 3D book, go on Fiverr and you can get somebody to do it for you. And I use Fiverr, which is why I'm doing this episode, because people have asked for it. That said, if you want to try Fiverr, they have an affiliate program, which I signed up for. So if you use the link, you'll save 20% on your first purchase, and I will get a little something sending you there. So it's just credit for my next Fiverr project, which quite frankly is probably going to be another podcast review for novel marketing, so we can improve the quality a little bit. So help us by helping yourself. Click the link that we have in the show notes for Fiverr, so I can buy more podcast reviews and podcast feedback.
And then finally, if some of you guys are out there going, wait a minute, I have a skill. I've got a really good singing voice and I could do, singing happy birthdays, or maybe you have another skill that we don't know about. Try it. Go to Fiverr and sign up and experience it from that side and see what it's like. You might find out you really enjoy it, and it might be an extra income stream for you.
Yeah, and if you're trying to have some income to cover your writing, there are lots of people who are looking for writers on Fiverr. And the fact that you're a most of you are native English speakers. We have an international listenership to this podcast, but many of you listening are native English speakers, and your command of English is going to be really good compared to a lot of the people on Fiverr who are around the world. And you have a competitive advantage. You don't have to charge $5. People will pay you $20 or $40 to write a blog post on a topic. I've hired a lot of bloggers. In one of my jobs, we were needing blog posts, and we would hire on sites like Fiverr all kinds of bloggers to write blogs on all kinds of different topics, and you can actually be paid to write this week. So if you're like, man, my wife or my husband keeps getting after me that my writing has not brought in any money, I need to start showing some income, or I need to be able to show the IRS that I'm making some income, sign up for Fiverr. You can get paid this week. It really can be that fast. And you'll, as you browse, be like, oh, I can do that. And then you look at the quality of the people, like, oh, I can do that better. And oh my gosh, they're charging $50 for this. I'd be happy to do it for $40. And suddenly you've added a revenue model. I haven't sold anything on Fiverr, but I know, Jim, you've looked into doing voiceover work on Fiverr.
I have, and it's something I went and signed up for, and I'm getting a lot of voice work these days just coming to me, so I didn't go ahead and pull the trigger on that. But if you have something you'd like to try out, it is a great place to get that started.
That's right. And there's one last example. There's a guy who has a podcast review podcast. In the podcasts that he does, he gets people to pay him $5 to feature his podcast. So he has them pay to do his research pay him to do his research for him. So there's a lot of creative ways to use Fiverr. So we do hope you check it out. We hope this episode has been helpful. If you have used Fiverr and you've had good experiences or bad experiences, or you're making money on Fiverr, go to the Novel Marketing Facebook group and let us know. We have an official discussion thread of every episode. And real quick, exciting announcement. We now have a YouTube channel. So thanks to this amazing service called repurpose.io, which is a website that I'm like, where have you been all my life? I love you so much. It is now going to automatically post all of our episodes as a video, like an animated video, to YouTube. So for those of you who don't have a podcast app and you've been listening on the website, you can now subscribe to Novel Marketing on YouTube. And we have links to our YouTube page on novelmarketing.com. There's nothing extra in the YouTube video. There's nothing that you don't get now. So if you're listening in Apple Podcasts, this doesn't apply to you. But I'm very excited to be a YouTuber now, even if it's just my voice.
I love
All right,
it.
featured patron.
So our featured patron this week is the book 95 Tweets, Celebrating Martin Luther in the 21st Century. And this is a book by Peter DeHaan. And Peter has done something really creative here. Essentially, 95 Tweets explains each of Luther's 95 concerns that he nailed to the Wittenberg door, even though he didn't actually do that, and then updates them as if they came out today. So they're reframed as 95 tweets, complete with hashtags. 95 Tweets concludes with a present-day list of 95 concerns for the modern church. And if you'd like to pick up a copy of that book, easy to do. We've got a link in the show notes. Check it out.
And this episode is brought to you by the Novel Marketing 5-year plan for becoming a best-selling author. And
becoming an overnight best-selling author.
5 years
right,
to become
Thomas?
an overnight best-selling author. And I am getting the most amazing feedback on this course. People are going through it. Some people are already on year 1, year 2. Some people skip the first year and have gone on to later years. But we take you quarter by quarter on how to build a writing career. And the most common piece of feedback we get is that they can't believe how cheap it is. And so still, we launched at like 10% of the price that it should have been. And we have raised the price, and it's still too cheap. So I'm giving you a heads up. We are going to be raising the price again soon. So if you want to get the 5-year plan to becoming a best-selling author, now is the time. So probably around the end of the year, beginning of the year, we're going to raise the price again on this course. And with all of our courses, our patrons save 50%. So you can find out more about the course at novelmarketing.com/courses. And if you want to learn about how to become a patron of the Novel Marketing Podcast, you can find that also at novelmarketing.com.